Well, thank you, everyone. My name is Reese Torbel Hanson. I'm the Food and Farming Program Manager at Sustainable Connections, helping to co-host this year's virtual farm-to-table trade meeting. Really excited to have, we've got something like 70 people with us this morning, which is great. We hope you're as excited as we are to have a really fun day of learning and connections and talking about food systems, which I know we all care a lot about, or we wouldn't be here. I'm going to let Mariah, my co-host, introduce herself. We're going to do a couple of announcements, and then we'll dive in to our keynote, which I know you're all eager to hear.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mariah DeLeo, and I'm the Good Food Economy Program Manager at Seattle Good Business Network. And we are here today helping to partner to organize this event with Sustainable Connections, and happy to be part of the team. So I'll leave it there.
Great. So I'd like to get started today with a land acknowledgement. So I'm hosting this event from the traditional lands of the Lummi, the Nooksack. Mariah is joining from the Duwamish, the first people of Seattle, Squamish, Stillaguamish, and Muckleshoot Coast Salish tribes. We wish to acknowledge them as traditional owners. We'd like to pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and the elders from other communities who may be here today. We intend to be respectful guests and good neighbors as we recognize their culture, tribal lands, heritage, depending on where you're signing in from, sovereignty. To find out what ancestral lands you're occupying, please visit the link in the chat, nativeland.ca. Thank you. Just gonna kick off with a quick thank you to our event sponsors. First, I'm going to start out, thank you to our other business partners. Business Impact Northwest teamed up with us at Sustainable Connections and Mariah at Seattle Good Business Network to do Food Biz Week. There are sessions and programming available all week. So we hope that you will go check them out. You can check out links in the Slack. You can chat with other participants. We've got a great whole week of programming and you're all already registered. Thank you to our sponsors for the Farm to Table Trade Meeting. I'd like to say thank you for the Whatcom Community Foundation, which helps underwrite the food and farming programming for Sustainable Connections, and for our supporting sponsors, Aditi Chai and Uprising Craft Brewery. Mariah, would you like to give your thank you?
Yeah, and I'd like to thank King Conservation District, who has both supported our work putting this program together and all of our good food economy work at Seattle Good Business Network. And then, did you mention Gobble Up? Gobble Up also Urban Craft Uprising. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you to our sponsors. I also want to give a really big shout out to all of our community sponsors this year. These are folks who participated in our really amazing tasting boxes. I know some of you have been enjoying them. I've been really enjoying them. If you got one of our great food boxes, be sure to share about it in the chat or in Slack. A lot of really amazing up and coming producers as well as old favorites. So really appreciative of their participation and joining in, you know, trying a new tasting box. I know we all were bummed not to have the amazing local chef lunch this year. And this didn't feel like second best. This felt like another best. So thank you very much for all of our local food producers who jumped right in to make these really amazing tasting boxes. Mariah, did you have anything that you would like to add?
No, just thanks to everybody for participating. Yeah, with over 41 producers, it definitely exceeded our expectations of everyone we thought we could represent. We had over 90 people apply to be in the boxes, and we hope to be able to do more programming like this in the future as needed. Eventually, we'll do it in person again, but we'll keep trying to bring the producers to you if you can't come to them.
Thank you. All right. We will now get ready to introduce our keynote panel, Imagining a Just Food Recovery. Sorry to say that Brandon Revy with Revy Diesel and Marine, who's a local commercial fisherman, was not able to join us today. So he sends his regrets and a message to all of our attendees that caring for your water system is caring for the food system. And that's the message he invites you to take home that he would have shared. But we're thrilled to introduce our other keynote panelists today. So we have Adasha Turner, who is the founder of Modest Family Solutions and UMA Sustain Institute in Everett, Washington, with a mission to towards diversifying natural resources. She has a youth agroecology program that offers village schooling approach to children and youth, kindergarten through 8th grade. They offer guided exploration and action-based studies and intuitive design to nurture spiritual grounding in stewardship as global citizens. And their unique teaching model leans education towards economic, environmental, social, and food justice awareness. Welcome, Adasha.
Thank you.
Our other panelist today is Tarik Abdullah. He's the founder of Feed the People, a chef and community activist. The Seattle native has been cooking for 20 plus years between Los Angeles and his hometown, the Evergreen State. Through his love for food, he has brought communities together with platforms such as Midnight Mecca, After Dark, and through incorporating youth by giving them opportunities through food. His latest project is Feed the People Community Kitchen, offering free meals in need or anyone during COVID-19 pandemic. Along with other kitchen chefs, they have formed the Seattle Community Kitchen Collective, producing free meals since March 2020. Welcome, Tarik. So to start, I'd like to give each of our panelists a chance to introduce themselves further, share more about your work in the community, and I'm going to start with Adasha. Adasha, welcome to the Farm to Table Trade meeting.
Hi, thank you for having me. Like you said, my name is Adasha Turner. I'm out here in Everett, Washington. We've started a 4-H program that is youth-led and youth-designed to tackle the issues that we're having with food justice and food sovereignty, starting with K-12, letting the children get to see the impacts of their environment on their food systems, how it's processed, where their food comes from. We get to put mileage on our food to our grocery stores and to our table. Prior to COVID, we were growing a lot of our own vegetables and having a hydroponic growing system to where we're able to produce a lot more produce during climate instabilities. So we're teaching them different sustainable resources while we're trying to restore soil. Or soil restoration in agriculture. So instead of having a post-secondary program, we're starting it, to where they can come and dive in, on a weekly basis and have this part of their life. And so it does take a village, and we wanted to provide that village. We're also part of the 200-acre challenge, to where we're trying to help BIPOC and Black farmers scale business on land ownership, which is part of a huge problem on food sustainability and land models, is that the Black ownership is less than 1% of farms that are out there. So it would be amazing to have this institute, UMA Sustain Institute, at the backdrop of our farmers to provide sustainability within our BIPOC communities. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Adasha. We're glad to have you. Tarik, would you like to introduce yourself some more and share some more about the work that you're doing?
Yes. Thank you for having me. Good morning. Yes, my name is Tarik Abdullah, aka Chef T, aka Cook a Tea. Yes, I am the founder of Feed the People, and also a busy man in the community, I guess. But for me, what I've been doing these past few years, I've been focusing on youth education through food, using my platforms, like she was saying before, After Dark, Midnight Mecca, Morning Star Brunch. Now, because of COVID, things have shifted. I now run a community kitchen called the Feed the People Community Kitchen, providing free meals Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Protein Thursdays, vegan Fridays, vegetarian Saturdays, 12 to 5. We run a 3-person team, volunteer team. Saturdays will be dedicated to me and my youth, and they will create the menu. They will cook the menu, but at the same time, they get to learn scale and be a part of a project that just has a lot of meaning. And then I'm also in the middle of an art project up on Beacon Hill called the Feed the People Plaza. Local artist Wolf Deluxe and I decided to paint the mural on the old Cocina Filipina building, paying homage to the restaurant, and which is no longer there. And the building's been sitting vacant. So we just painted the whole building and last year and turned it into an outdoor pop-up incubator space, art space. And so basically the goal for me is to continue doing the work that I'm doing and to find ways and solutions on better food systems and better education for our kids through food.
Thank you, Tarik. So I'm gonna lead our panelists through a couple of guiding questions, but otherwise let them have a conversation between themselves, sort of like all of our favorite podcasts where we get to listen in on some of our favorite people sharing about what they're doing. So Tarik or Adasha, either one of you are welcome to jump in to answer this first question. So food justice has been defined as a total transformation of the food system towards food sovereignty with equal care for people and planet. When you imagine a recovery from COVID-19 centered in the principles of food justice, what does that look like to you?
You know, it's one thing to see what it would look like, but then also at the same time, it's going to take some time. It's going to take time because of so many factors are involved. It's one thing that we're talking about on a community level. That's one thing, but if we're talking on a larger scale, I feel like that's going to be more of life work for a lot more people. I do see food systems definitely changing. It's going to be interesting to see which cities are really going to take grasp and really look at how important food access on any level is of importance, and how the dollar, I can see the dollar changing too for food too. I'm just not exactly sure, but I definitely see things either being somewhat cheaper or certain things just honestly might cost more just because of how our systems have been, overproducing, excess, overfishing. But I do see promise.
Yeah, likewise, I think one thing that COVID has really done is grounded us in our daily consumptions. We haven't been able to go out and eat as much and do the things that we like to do. We're more aware of what we're throwing away, what's going to waste, how we're spending our dollars. I think after the first 3 weeks of being Amazoned out, we can't buy anymore. It's not about buying our happiness. It's setting in our uncomfortableness and really looking at in our fridge, in our closets, what do we need? What don't we need? And really, I've seen a lot of people purging and coming to the realization that there is a huge amount of excess that we don't need. Going from that, a lot of people have started to garden, and they're starting to look for just different things that they can do that's family oriented, that's going to be able to cause, just a legacy within their own family. I think that's something that's been missing throughout the times. We've just been on the go, and just distracted with the daily grind to where we're not really focusing on the family unit. With COVID, manifesting itself, it's something that's really grounded us back into, what it is to be a family, what it is to teach our own children, what it is to occupy our children's time, and with what, really understanding the value in growing your own food, what you're putting in your body, a lot more. We've cut down cold and flu season, by 90%, with COVID, just from being aware of hygiene routines, so I'm thinking after COVID, I'm hoping, and it's a hope and a prayer, that we kind of stay mindful and we stay conscious of this, that we're not so quick to go back to sleep. We're not so quick to run back to the grocery stores. And with all of this awareness that's going on, I'm hoping that parents would just want to stay stay involved a little bit longer, that when their kids are needing it. And something about seeing, a kid grow their own food, pick their first radish, pick their first squash, you know what I mean? Like I did this, connecting them back to their roots, connecting them back to, what they can do with the hands that were given to them and their brains. Kind of technology is not, it's warped us. So this pandemic has been a blessing and a curse, at the same time, but I'm hoping that we as a community can grow from this, us as a family unit, value life again, and really connect to what we can give to each other, and I think that's one thing I've definitely seen with the pandemic, with, the weather changing, being snowed in for a few days or not, neighbors just getting out to really know, checking on each other. Are you okay? Is there anything you need? If we can keep that going, that will be beautiful. And then if we can put it together and bring people together with food, as we know that it can be, that it can be a beautiful thing. So I'm hoping to see a lot more community gardens. Our program is looking to put vertical gardening in food deserts, and just that awareness to where food deserts are and what causes a food desert, you know what I mean? And looking at the economics behind that and really putting their dollars into investing back into their own communities versus into a lot of big box companies that really don't care. They don't care. Their bottom dollar is not, or their bottom line is not our health. You know what I mean? It's not for us to be unified. It's that individualism and it's that constant distraction that they make money off of. And I mean, it's stopped, and I think it's been for the better. So I would just hope that post-COVID that we can keep some of that awareness and tap into some of that genuine intuitiveness and keep things moving in a productive, I was going to say halal way, but a permissible way that's not really causing harm or damage, to our neighbors and to our planet.
Both of you have focused in part of your work on youth programming and engaging with youth as a part of the work that you're doing. Would you like to speak to why that's a focus and what your considerations are for focusing on children when thinking about a just food system?
I'll say that being a child and for a child to have to experience what they went through last year, I think it's like the perfect time to reintroduce them to food, dirt. And the thing is, and a lot of it, a lot of these kids just don't even have the opportunity. Like my friend Christy, her daughter, 12 years old. We had a very simple, we're having a conversation, just talking about COVID and the frustrations. And she was saying how, yeah, you can go to your studio and create all you want. I'm only 12 years old. I can't go anywhere. And so with that, for me, it always made sense for that. I was just like, you know what, what's the one thing we can do to keep the kids involved, but safe during these times? And through food means memories. It means creation. It means freedom. It means a sense of pride, accomplishments. And this is what I've just seen over the years of just teaching And now it's just, what's different now is we just have to just do it in more of a less in the group, but you just got to be a more effective. You got to, as much as you got to hit it with them as much as you can for that limited amount of time that you have.
Yeah.
And I think the community kitchen's been like the perfect fit for, it's not all day, but it's just enough to keep them occupied. They enjoy what they do, and it's a good feeling. And it's going to be something for them to like look back on, when they're gray and old, and just think about like, ooh, what did I learn? I learned how to grow some food, cook some food, skill set.
Definitely. Frederick Douglass said, it's easier to build a stronger child than it is to repair a broken man. So when I think about that, and being a homeschooling parent for over 20 years, and traveling with that, I'm a retired clinical neurophysiologist. I showed my kids, exactly what they can have by being on that grind, but the travel and being in surgery all the time, it took me away from my kids a lot. And so they were very accomplished, started college when they were 13, but I really put in front of them the wrong kind of framework, as to what's important and what's not. And so I saw the power of my influence being parent enrolled, not just enrolling your child somewhere. Your parent is enrolled and involved in the educating of the child, to where if I would have had them, both of them are in engineering, aeronautical engineering, robotics engineering, but it kind of took those type of skill sets. Once this is all said and gone and we have to build back up our communities, it's like, what do we have? What skills are we teaching our children to build back up community? So what happened to home economics? What happened to, sitting down and teaching, out of the kitchen? I'm a science major. There's so much science in the kitchen. My 6-year-old now, and like I said, and me being retired and having my condition has really been another blessing, because I've been able to sit down and focus with my 6-year-old. So I have 26, 23, and 6. This time around, I'm definitely doing things different. I am 100% involved with her education, with her learning. For her to be able to tell me the difference between a physical change and a chemical change just off of baking. She loves to bake. She loves to be in the kitchen. Those are the sciences that are going to take her further, versus me just sitting there and making her hit the books, and the thing is that one thing we don't have with a lot of fast foods and convenience food, there's no love in the food. And how are you going to nourish yourself and nourish your kids and teach them how to nourish their community if we're not putting that love in the food? So cooking, that was one thing. My family being from the South, that's one thing that they definitely do. And I missed that. And my oldest missed that. So this time around, I've been given a second chance to do things differently. And not only is it me, it's everybody else. It's all the kids in the neighborhood, for the parents who have to work and don't have the luxury of being home. That this is why I created UMA Sustain Institute, because it does take a village and the village has to be there. And it's not just saying it, it's really creating those comfort spaces and learning differentiated instruction. We understand that we have to teach each child different in order for them to grasp stuff, but we put them in this kind of cookie cut education system that there's no individualism in it at all. And they're not set to succeed in anything. So if my daughter is learning to read and she's doing her math, guess what? She can go to college. I've proven that, with the first two. And so just kind of getting those high dollar expectations out of their mind and just really wanting them to be happy. And what does true happiness mean? Because we got a lot of broken people walking around. And so when I hear Mr. Douglas quote that it's easier to build a stronger child than it is a broken man, I'm telling you, he ain't lying. He ain't told no lie there. So that's where I put my time and my energy, because at the end of the day, that's something I will never regret.
Thank you. But both of you have touched on this, in your first question we asked about, food justice and food sovereignty. But I wonder if each of you could name a couple of what you see as specific obstacles in the way of achieving a just food recovery to COVID-19.
Okay.
Oh.
No, you want to go ahead, Dasha?
I was going to say the one thing, as I'm learning more about the agro system and the works of the USDA, one thing that we've been talking about and people throw around a lot is empowerment. This word empowerment, and there's a lot of funding out there to have these empowerment programs. But when you look, past empowerment, past youth into adulthood, what systems are designed to actually support, one another, to learn that the agricultural business does not have a minimum wage requirement. It, to me, is just mind blowing. These are people who go and they prepare our food, they grow our food, and they're doing it under harsh conditions. And how are we supposed to, if we can't take care of the people who are taking care of us, there's something wrong with that. If the people who are growing food for us have to, live in conditions that we wouldn't live in, then there's something wrong here. We're going to have to redesign, like Chef Tarik said, it's something when you're talking about community and more people and larger scales, that's something that's going to take time. And so once you start looking at agroecology, and that's why I stopped with the Junior Master Gardener program, and I wanted the children to learn all the systems from the beginning, how this is all intertwined, environmental to agricultural to economics. You need to learn that from the beginning, because that's our basis for everything. So if we stop pigeonholing things or only looking at things through an ostrich or telescope lens, and we look at a wider scale, for one, you're going to see all the problems, because not everybody's going to be specialized in one thing to where they don't understand the next system and the next system and how this domino affects us all on this macro level. You know what I mean? Or this micro level. It's the macros that have the control and power. And so just putting some spotlight on that, but definitely the wages for our agricultural worker, definitely having, stopping a lot of the youth to the pipeline systems and actually giving them jobs and skill sets in fields that they could actually grow their own food, be a benefit to their community, feel like they're being, that they're valued, and it's like, if we don't have any justice, we should at least have food justice. We have to start somewhere, but there's so many injustices across a lot of the systemic oppression narratives that, that's one of them. That's where I'm starting, I guess I should say. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. Last year, it's, of course, in the industry for over 20 years, you learn about seasonality, local, and you see access to a degree. But I think last year for me, when I partnered with EFP, Emergency Feeding Program, and they gave me a tour of their space. And then when they told me what they did, and I looked at the fact of like, this is an organization that collects food from basically every major grocery store, roughly 5 to 6 days a week in semi truck amounts. When I saw that, on top of the fact of going through providing the meals throughout the year, that's a whole underbelly of food that people don't even know about. Like the overproducing, it is insane. And there's a reason why the community kitchen has to keep going. It's one thing that it is eventually going to provide jobs, but it's the one thing of saying, like, there's excess of food that eventually goes to waste, and we can do something with that. So I feel like what we need to do is one thing, like on a local level, that we make these systems, and we got to stay consistent with these systems. Let's be honest, because if we stop and start the chain, we'll continuously have this same thing in food history, so we definitely need to stay consistent, but we also need to have folks on a city level, state level, Washington level, and staying with it. And we should all be in communication.
Yes.
We should all be in communication, and so they can hear what's on our minds and what we need to see and what we need help from. Because the thing is, I can't tackle what I saw with the grocery stores. I mean, I can stop everything right now and then somehow come up with some legal, and then like, hey, I want to take on X, Y, and Z because they are bringing in too many products. But then it's bigger than a grocery store. We're talking about brands that are producing, and they're overproducing. So how come Washington can't come up with a bill of saying, okay, let's create a new quota or something? I'm saying you're not allowed to pass this, I don't know, production number amount of something, because we're going to continue having this food excess. And the thing is it wrong to not do what we're doing? Heck no. Is it wrong to let it go to waste? Yes. And I refuse to let it go to waste. So I try to use as much as I can. And, you know, I just feel like that's what we need to do. Washington and that local level, we should have some get-togethers once in a while.
I think in addition to just the producing, being in contact with our local farmers, I think if we start, the food boxes are great, the CSAs are great, you know, to being able to, they know what the need is based off of, you know, the orders, and growing to orders versus growing to filled shelves. And another thing is, you know, not only the local is really, we need to get back into the seasons. Like Tariq was saying, it's like going, because we as a community or as a state, like, you know, a certain produce that's not really grown here, does that make sense for us to, you know, ship things from different countries and different continents, you know, just so we can, you know, have the comfort and the luxury of the option to have that food if I wanted to, you know what I mean? And then that food go into waste. I've seen a lot of selected rural communities being privy to a lot of those semi trucks being dropped off, just food on a weekly basis, to where I don't see that in South Seattle. I don't see that in certain communities. I had, when I actually did experience that for myself, I was kind of in disbelief. Like, if there's this much food out here, what are we doing? What are we missing? You know, so the communication is definitely necessary. We have all these people in positions, you know, and it's like, there's no checks and balances to it. Just to be a supplier, you know, that, you know, there has to be some accountability to it. I know when COVID first hit, we wasted billions of pounds of food. And it's just like, my heart would I just wept eggs and milk. And it's like, how many people, you know, and bless the farmers that were letting people come and just buy from them directly, because they weren't able to get the food, you know, shipped out. But hopefully we've learned from this pandemic, because that was the one thing that was affected heavily, you know, was the commercial food systems, you know. So let's not just be so quick to going back to business as usual. I hear that so much, and it's very irritating because this pandemic has been very revealing on so many different levels. So anyone who's saying, let's go back, you're suspect to me, you know, right about now. So I just try to keep it real, because we got, you know, it should be revealing, and we should all be able to come together. All these allies or people wanting to be allies, you know, use their privileges in order to access this, you know, and put it to the table to where, and bring folks like Chef Tarik, folks who are doing the work, you know, on the ground, and bring them to the table. So that way we could have some real conversations on some real solutions, and not just PowerPoint presentations that look well, you know what I mean? Or it looks like in theory, when we have real life system failures documented during this pandemic, use that data to improve these systems.
Thank you both, giving us so much to digest and integrate. If again, either one of you jump in here to answer first, but if you were to ask the folks in our audience today to do one thing, what maybe the next right thing, maybe one big thing, maybe one little thing, but one thing that you would do for a call to action for them to help enact a just food recovery, what would you ask of them?
Wow. You know what? I think that kind of depends on your own leverage and access that you have. I think it goes from person to person, because some people have abilities to get in places where they can tackle on. But I think from a simple stance, I would say, honestly, teach yourself gardening 101. And I'm not talking about, growing 10 things. I am saying, like I tell my homies, I was like, who doesn't like salsa, for instance, right? Who loves chips and salsa, right? There's no one here that can say they despise chips and salsa. If you can grow salsa, there's your start. That doesn't take a lot of work. Only thing you're buying is chips. And when you're ready to start talking about chips, holler at your boy. I'll teach you the trick on the chips. But I really say, I think people should just teach themselves some basics and not feel intimidated. Do not go to a nursery and be like, oh my God, be overwhelmed. Don't put yourself down that road. There's too many cool. YouTube University is amazing right now. The platforms that people are doing right now, such as the Grow Family Network, they are a Black family that sits on 3 acres of land, and they document day to day to day to day, and they teach everything about gardening. So I honestly just want people to just try out a few things. Failure happens. Trust me, I had failure in my garden last year, and I had failure the year before, but guess what? I still was able to produce food. So yeah, try some gardening, just a little bit. Try a couple little projects.
I would say it may not be for everybody, but get into composting, get into your waste. Many may not know, and some people, just like climate change, think that, it's just a theory, but we only have 60 years of regrowable soil on this earth. We've overproduced and we've poured too many chemicals into our soils. And so another teaching moment for your child, there's a lot of biology, science nerd, in composting and the breakdown, of what's going on. But really, when you start to separate your trash and your waste, someone had said, that mankind has lost his way once we invented the toilet. Once we start carrying our own waste away, we became disconnected, with what we actually produce. So I'm not saying going back to, going back that way, but I am saying, take a class. The universities, they do have a lot of waste warriors and sustainable stewards programs. We have one. Just really learn, the effects that we're putting, on this planet, and why it's starting to be very hard to grow, high density nutritious food. But if you get into composting and worms and doing some type of soil regeneration, even if it's in a pot, you know what I mean? It's amazing on what you can produce, and the taste is so much better. It's higher quality food. So that's kind of the one thing I would ask. And if you're able to support your local farmers, there's so many farmers doing CSAs right now where you can get on their list and pay the money for the year, and that way they can grow to order, and you will get locally sourced food from the farmers that are here. It's not being trucked. It's low miles and low impact. And so that's just be cautious. Be cautious. Don't fall conscious. And conscious. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, but don't be so quick to fall back to sleep. Let's not go back to normal. Let's get it right.
A quick thing I want to say. It's funny you say something about the compost, Dasha. So at the kitchen, right, and even before that, so a friend of mine, Amanda Houston, she grows. She has her own little pea patch, and she taught me some things on tea, right? And it's like a tea for the garden. And what she was doing was taking scraps, right? Yep. Like banana has potassium. So she would take the banana peels and put that in with some other things, with some water, and then she would boil it, then she would strain it. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, boom, one less thing not going into the compost or not going in the trash for some people that just feel like, I'm gonna just throw a banana peel in the trash. And then all the eggshells.
Yes.
I keep all the eggshells that we
calcium.
Yes. We keep all. We have not thrown one eggshell away since we've been at the kitchen last year. We dry out the eggshells slightly, and then we've been keeping them in giant 5-gallon buckets, and then we grind it down. And then I'll probably call Naima or even keep some for myself and be like, hey, that's free calcium right there that you can blend with water, oyster shells, and then you can add that to your ground and it activates so quickly. So it's just the little things that I learned. So that's just one thing to know about composting too. There's all these little things you can do before you throw it in the trash or in the compost.
Yes. Yes. Our soils are depleted. That's the thing. If you knew how depleted our soils are and how much we were just throwing it away, it's like, we got to connect the dots, Right. You definitely do.
Okay, I think you're both in good company with soil nerds with the Farm to Table Trade meeting. These are some soil enthusiasts here for sure. I want to give a couple minutes for audience members to submit questions. So you can submit questions through the Q&A function. I'll also be watching the chat. So yeah, I'll give you all a few minutes to put some questions in, but rapid fire while they do that. Adasha and Tarik, you're amazing people doing great work in the community, but I know that you probably have people that you really admire who are doing amazing work in the community. So if each of you wants to point out somebody that you would like to give a shout out to, that more people should know about what they're doing and that inspires you, we'd love to know who they are.
I'm gonna go because I'm cheating. It's Chef T.
Oh my goodness, that list is long. Sister Adasha, of course. Chef Ariella with Plant-Based Food Share. She's doing a plant-based box for free 3 days a week. Dev Chef has been doing school meals, school lunches for kids, probably for the last 4 years, right out of his own house. Something that, another subject matter that we can go down a rabbit hole on another day, but something that no one else is thinking about. School lunches. This guy is tapping into kids because kids don't want to eat the food that they're getting at school, so he makes a better meal for them. Oh my goodness. Yeah, all, Black Star Farmers, Yes Farm, Black Sovereignty Farms out in Portland.
Yeah.
It's not fair. There's a lot. Kitchen. Shout out to my man, Elliot, Kitchen Sink Strategies. Be on the lookout for that, man. There's some amazing work he's doing. Lee, I don't know, Adasha, there's a ton of people we could say.
I know.
I mean,
I cheated. I'm sorry. There's a lot. Well, I know Black Food Sovereignty and Black farmers definitely are larger networks of folks doing amazing work. All of the kitchens, all of the community workers, all of the activists out there on the grind, that's, looking at multiple issues, that's the thing. It's just not food. I mean, the people who are that don't have access, the homeless, the disenfranchised or the underserved populations. There's so many people that don't have businesses that are doing it out of their houses and out of, just a combination of coming together where, they don't have that business background or even the time, to put a business together. They're just doing it out of the kindness of their heart. Those are the people that I want to shout out, because not everybody has, access and resources, to pull it together. I definitely would like to see that. Actually, I like to shout out to MAPS because they just launched a small business resiliency program for BIPOC people and they have everything from starting your business to accounting to business license, nonprofit. It's all for free. You just go and sign up. MAPS, MAPS SBNR. small business network or reliance or resilience program that they just launched last week. And it's just helping anybody that's trying to get a business together, and giving them all the resources to where you don't have to fish around to find out what's what. You don't have to pay all this money to find out, what you need to get it going. And, and with that, they're connecting a lot of people together. Farmer Frog, between counties, Snohomish County, actually between states, Eddie Hill, out in Portland.
Eddie.
Yes. So, the more that the interesting thing is that we're all kind of starting to see each other and we're all doing the same work, and it's all love. You know what I mean? It's not, it's not a competition at all. It's just like, you're starting to make those puzzle pieces connect, and so I want to see the finished product one day, hopefully, God willing, to where we're able to take care of our people. But Red, what is it? Cafe Red, down in Rainier, Miss Ella. There's so many people. I know.
Nurturing groups.
Yeah, neighborhood.
Oh my goodness. Creative justice for the work that I'm working with them right now. They're doing a lot of work with youth. Yeah. Oh my goodness. And there's so many different levels of what people are doing because of the fact that COVID showed us what we need and what we want to see, but without all the hiccups. Like
not asking permission.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we need without the hiccups. Like there's a woman in Manhattan right now since COVID. She's been producing pizzas right out of her apartment, right? Top floor of an apartment. So she just emails, you email her, you donate $10 and she makes you a great pie. And the thing is, guess what? She's not getting no flack, no city officials. And that's what I mean. If a fast food joint is allowed to sell crap, then that woman is allowed to sell a pizza right out of her apartment.
Right.
Plain and simple. There should be no excuse of she's doing a good thing. She chose to do it. She's smart. She's not like cooking in a junkyard. You know what I mean? She has common sense. I mean, come on, people, there's that. And then there's us that we care about the food. And so the thing is, as long as people are allowed to do what they want to do, I think our systems can change. Just allow people to do the work.
Right. Bring back the potluck.
Bring back the potluck. Oh,
Bring back the potluck.
Dang.
Definitely what I have missed the most during COVID. But yeah, sharing food with friends and community. So just two rapid fire questions before we wrap up here in about 3 minutes. One question for you, Adasha. The person was asking if you could share a little bit more about the fact that you were associated with 4-H clubs and if there had been interest in replicating your agroecology program in other 4-H clubs.
I've been trying. For one, I had it was a hard time getting my 4-H club. It took me over a quite longer than most. But now that it's up, and I really want to. I'm not into replicating it right now because I'm looking at quality. I don't want quantity. I want quality. If it's something that's going to be replicated, because I do have all my curriculum is done. You know what I mean? I need parent involvement. This is not a place where you're going to drop your kid off. I'm going to tell you right now, no, everybody needs hands in dirt, in soil, in something. We're doing everything from beginning to end. And so once I start to see that kind of level of commitment, from the community and from parents and really, valuing what we have, because agroecology is challenging all the systems that we have. You know what I mean? So as we start to get more academics involved, in this on changing systems or alternative systems, that's kind of what I'm looking at now before we kind of replicate it, because you want to fine tune everything before you put it out. So right now it's just it's in Everett. The nice thing about it is that because of COVID, it's all online, and we're able to It's all online, and some of our ecology portions of it, we have some great partnerships where we're doing like eDNA out in the mountains and whatnot. So where it's at right now is perfectly located to where we can do that. And I honestly want to get a lot of the kids out of the urban area into experiencing these spaces. And so I don't want to be quick to put something just back in the city and back in the hoods, you know what I mean, to where they're still confined to that area. The whole purpose of this is to get them out of that box so they can think outside of that box. I didn't realize how much of a box I was in until I went over to Switzerland. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow, completely different system altogether. And it's kind of that shock and awe defibrillation that we're going to need in order to get the parents' mindset out of that box, because the kids are already there. They're already pure. They're already, we curb their curiosity by giving them these, strict things to go off of. And this is what you need to succeed, when they've already been given that gift. You know what I mean? So let's kind of nurture it. So I want to get them out. And so the next place that we have, I just really want to be able to connect all those dots there as well. So sorry for the long answer.
Thank you. Thank you both. I wish we had more time for more questions, but if you have those who are in the audience, if you have more questions, feel free to post them in the Slack channel. We're happy to pass your questions on to Adasha and Tariq. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your insights and wisdom with us and kicking off our day. Really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
More information, you can go to modestfamilysolutions.org. The program's starting up there. But thank you for having us.
Thank you both. Next, hi, thank you. Thanks for joining in.